everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Red Country, Joe's third standalone and the next First Law entry. And this week we cover answered prayers and sharp ends. So let's get started. As usual, you folks, you know that we appreciate your support and we count on it. We demand it, but we love it. Thank you so much for that. Don't forget to follow us on our social media page.
We thank you, the people, for your contributions of emotional support. That's pretty much all you guys contribute, and that is not in any kind of demeaning way.
It's good. We appreciate it.
We do appreciate it. All right. And so, just a reminder for our community interaction segment, the next time the Memeing Every Chapter event starts up, be sure to join that. That'll be for Sharp Ends, I believe, right? So make sure you join, choose your own chapters, all that stuff, as well as continue to join our Discord. We've it's expanding. People like to talk to each other about things, all kinds of things. It seems like.
I know that's a surprise to many of you that people do enjoy talking to one another, because most of you guys probably do not talk to anybody else.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Other than your working family.
Yeah, so don't forget to hit us up, folks. And remember, just to send an email at circletheworldpodcast@gmail.com for any kind of comments, questions, or requests to join our Discord. Or, again, follow us on our social media platforms. And then we'll dive right into Answered Prayers, which is our first chapter read-through. And this is from the perspective of our boy Temple. And Temple is feeling very, very sorry for himself. And he's not feeling good about himself, and he's drinking a lot. He's drinking to the point where Swarbrick is like, maybe you should stop. And Temple's like, yeah, maybe we should start. And, Casca's already hammered, and he's telling Temple that he's got to pace himself. It's like an art. A drink. It's drinking is like love. And he gets like, what the fuck do you know about love? And Casca
I love how
Stephen
Pacey, the audiobook, gets so whimsical at that part as well. It's like Casca's like, a drink is like love.
He does. That's amazing. So Casca is talking about like, cheer up, boys. We're rich, and rich men need to make no apologies. To Viscerine, for me, take back what I lost, what was stolen. And then Temple mutters, what you threw away. And
it's so funny that he's so obsessed with Viscerine. Like, even at the start of when we first meet him, he's already lost it,
Yeah, we know he lost it, obviously, because he's in this position right now. But he says something interesting. He goes, yep, there'll be room for a new Captain General, since he'll be focused on taking Viscerine. And he goes to Temple, soon this will all be yours. And Temple goes, what? What?
Yeah.
What do you mean, mine?
Can you see Temple leading the mercenary company? I don't think I could at this point, right?
No, but
this one.
No, but I see what Casca's seeing in him, in the fact that he is capable of being a leader of sorts, right? Of taking charge. As long as he stops being because he's intelligent enough. He's
I don't think it has anything
enough.
to do with that.
What do you think it is?
I think it has, like I've mentioned it, recently in the past couple episodes. I think it's strictly like Casca doesn't care about the good of the mercenary company. He's not trying to put it in good hands. He just wants to pass his legacy on to somebody who thinks is worth it, somebody who's better than him, somebody who's trying to, you know what I mean? He couldn't give it to Monza, or he did, and it was all fucked up. So Temple is a good person. He knows that Temple's a good person, relatively speaking, and he wants to give it to him for that reason alone. I don't think it has anything to do with his capabilities. It has to do with the fact that Temple wants to be a good person, and he's mentoring him, and he can't think of a better man to give it to.
Well,
literally.
Sure, yeah, he can, but that's what I mean. He thinks he would be a good leader, like he would be a better leader than the others, because he talks about how it's like all going to be about the law, how everything's going to be like about regulations, which it's very like forward thinking, right? As opposed to the
At
blood
least,
of
at least in
brutality.
some narrow way, anyway. Like he's just thought,
Right.
"Oh, law, you're a lawyer. You can do
Right.
it."
Yeah, I
Right.
just don't think
And
he's
you're
doing it for
smart.
the. I just don't really think he's doing it for the good of the mercenary company. I think he's just like,
No.
yeah, my legacy to you, someone who's better than me. Maybe you can do something with it. It's more quote unquote selfish. You know what I mean?
Right. But I agree. I like how when Temple goes, he starts naming the other captains as like better options. He goes, "What about Brachio?" Casca just says, "Family Peranti." Dimbic, no sense of humor. Joubert, mad as a plum jelly. And then this is what boggles. This is what I think really like gets Temple, right? Because Temple says, I'm a fucking coward. I'm no soldier." And Casca says it's admirable. It's an admirable thing. The job's all talk. That and knowing when not to keep your word. And he goes, "I was always too bloody emotional, too bloody loyal. But you're a treacherous bastard, Temple." And Temple goes, "What?" And I am? And he goes, "Yeah, you abandoned me when it suited you and found new friends. And then when it suited you, you abandoned them and sauntered right back without so much as a by your leave." And Temple blinks and he goes, "But I rather had the feeling that you'd have killed me otherwise." And Costco waits and goes, "Details!" He goes, "I've had you marked as my successor for quite some time." Temple responds by thinking that no one respects him. And he goes, "Because you don't respect yourself. Doubt, Temple, indecision. You simply worry too much. Sooner or later, you just have to do something or you'll never do anything. Overcome that. You could be a wonderful captain general. One of the greats. Better than me, better than Cezine, better than Mercado, even. You might want to cut down on the drinking, though. Filthy habit."
I don't know how to feel about getting that lesson from the worst person you've ever met.
Exactly.
You
And I
know?
think that's what's
Like,
fucking
oh, that makes sense, but I fucking hate you.
Yeah. And I think that's what it's fucking Temple up right now. And he goes, I don't want to do this anymore. And Costco goes, "You say that all the time. Yeah, here you are." And then Temple's, "I got to go pee pee." And so he gets up and he goes pee pee. I mean, do we want to talk about how we feel about this? Like, what do you think about getting that kind of like, basically,
I think it's exactly what Temple needs to hear. It's exactly what he deserves to hear. I mean, that's basically it's not like representative of who Temple actually is, but it is a very good
I don't know,
um
man.
it is and it isn't. Like it's not really who he is, but it's the character that he's come up with. It for example, he's somebody who thought of himself, "Oh, I'm kind of a coward, oh man, I just don't have much choice. I have to be a bad guy, and this kind of sucks. I'm just stuck in this position. I chose to be a coward."
That's the
Instead of
indecision. That's the indecision right there.
yes, instead of hearing, "Well, you're just a traitorous little bastard, aren't you?" He never even really conceptualized himself in that way. He was still giving himself credit whenever he was like, "Well, at least I'm honest with myself." But he wasn't really being honest with himself. He was being a
Right,
treacherous
yeah,
little bastard.
he was,
And
and he's
hearing that from
yeah.
Casca, somebody who he despises and realizes that he's right, is definitely like oh, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, because, and I think it's all about like circumstances too, right? If
Yeah.
Costco would have said this to him in the beginning of the book or before this book even happened, probably doesn't even affect Temple like that. But
Yeah.
Temple went through the whole meeting Shy, Lamb, going with the Fellowship, you know what I mean, and
Mhm.
going into Ashrank and getting the kids. Now this hits,
Yeah.
right? And Shy
That's true.
left, didn't do anything. You know what I mean? I think it's circumstances as well, But Casca, like, yeah, he doesn't want to hear it, but Casca's not wrong. Temple's very smart
No.
and he's very
Yeah.
capable, but he's wishy washy. He's
Yep.
too wishy washy, and he's a coward. And like, sure, okay, being a coward is an admirable thing in a mercenary, but who isn't scared, right? Like people get scared,
Yeah.
and this kind of just pushes Temple over the edge. I mean, George, did you want to say anything about this?
No, absolutely. I just think, like you say, to know that we as much as we know Costco and how much of a piece of shit he is now, to hear something actually cognizant from him that we do kind of from Best of Cold, where he had those little moments of insight, and he's kind of carried that on, but he's just
He's just a
trying
shittier person.
I can see how he's, like you say, Jeff, trying to carry on some kind of legacy or something like that, but he really just wants to just go and retire at this point, I think. But for Temple, I think,
Yeah.
yeah. After having the miserable couple of weeks that he's had, I think this is exactly what's, like you say, Harrison. He doesn't need to hear it, but he will do good by it.
Yeah.
It's a perfect moment, and it fits so well. You never doubt for 1 second that these characters would not say these things to each other.
Absolutely. And Temple, he leaves to go piss, right? And he walks past the fortified wagon, and all that stuff. And he's pissed. He's outside, right? And he's pissing, and he's looking up into the sky, and he's like, "God, just give me a sign, give me a nudge, anything." and then we just hear a voice. "I'll give you a nudge." And he froze, cock wilting, still dripping. "God, is that you?" No, fool. Somebody pulled his bottle out of the snow because he brought his bottle with him. And he turns around and it's Shy. And he goes, "Oh, I thought you left." She goes, "Nope." Came back and she, took a swig. And she goes, "I thought you'd never come out of there." I guess the building where they're in, the little ramshackle building. And she goes, "Are you drunk?" And he goes, "A little bit." He goes, "Well, that works for us." And he's like, "It works for me." And she looks down and is like, "Yeah, I see that," looking at his dick. He's like, "Oh, good Lord." I like how he says, "If you wanted to see my cock that badly, you could have just asked." And she goes, "No doubt a thing of haunting beauty, but I came for something." And then here he's being he's like self-hating. He goes, "Got a window?" Then he's jumping through. She goes, "No, I just might need your help."
Oh.
And he goes like, "Is it likely to be dangerous?" "A little bit." "Really a little bit?" She goes, "No, a lot." And he goes, "Is this about Savian?" She goes, "A little bit." And then he goes, "Oh God." And he starts thinking about it, right? Remember what Casca said? Doubt. That was his problem. Indecision. Worrying too much. He wished he was less drunk. Then he wished he was more. He asked for a sign, hadn't he? Why had he asked for a sign? He never expected to get one. And he muttered, "What do you need?" And that's the end of that chapter, boys. How do you rate it?
I think I'm gonna give it a 3, 2 and a knuckle. I'm gonna give 2 and a knuckle.
Ooh, okay.
It's pretty short.
Yeah.
We just had this little short conversation. I don't think it's. I think it's a good conversation, but it's overall there's 2 conversations. One of them is progressing the plot. One of them is about character, and it's okay. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. George?
Yeah, I'd say a 3 or a 3 or a knuckle.
Yeah.
Good chapter for Temple, and we get to see a little bit of Costco. I reckon there's a little bit more under the surface than he gives off, But he's still a piece of shit, so it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm giving it a 3. 3 out of 9 fingers. Short chapter. But what I like is like this is the tipping point for Temple. That's what I really like. I like that because Casca said the right things at this time, even though like George, you pointed out earlier that hearing this from this despicable person, it's like motherfucker, is what drives him over the edge. I think if somebody says it, then it doesn't hit as hard because maybe Temple is expecting them to maybe like have his best interest in mind, whatever. Not Casca. But the fact that Costco was able to be very like truthful and honest and say that, yeah, no, you're a piece of shit, and this is why I want you to be the successor. Yeah, man, you just worry too much. Too much indecisiveness. Yeah. And Temple's like, what the fuck? And it hits. It hits. Like Costco said this.
The worst person just made a great point.
Yeah. It's like, oh no, I'm not gonna say it. So we'll move on to our next segment, which is our best meme of the week. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
So we have Taco Tuesdays. So we're not picking the actual meme of the week for this week because the actual meme of the week would be a spoiler for the next episode. So I'm just going to gloss right on over that. So this is from Meme in Every Chapter for the tally, which was a couple of weeks ago. It's when Costco's asking Freddy to count all the money, and it's that scene from Archer. And he goes, I want you to account for the treasure. Every brass bit properly tallied, noted, and stored away, and it's friendly. Stop, my penis can only get so erect.
We got to say it right.
Yep, go on.
Stop, my penis can only get so erect.
No. Stop. My penis can only get so erect.
As friendly, sorry. I was doing it as Krieger, sorry.
So yeah, that was an excellent meme.
Very
Thank
good
you very
one.
much. Taco
Very
Tuesdays.
good one. Yeah. And so we'll move on right into our next chapter read through, which is Sharp Ends, but because as people there's another book called Sharp Ends. Anywho,
By the way, to clarify, this is the chapter Sharp Ends. We're not jumping into the book.
we're not going right into the book or the chapter. And we start this chapter off. This is another, we could say, Little People chapter, I guess we could say.
Yes.
So this one, we start off from the perspective of Practical Weil. Boys, we're back in the minds of a practical for once.
Of a civil man, a man of the Union.
A man of the Union, a man of the Inquisition, a man of.
So I like how the common thing with the practicals is that the mask really chafes. It's not good. It's not good for your skin. It's just it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, like right here, probably by the chin, I imagine.
Yeah.
And he's
not good.
rubbing at the chafe marks, and it's not the worst part of the job, but close. Apparently, a little chafing is one of the worst parts of the job.
One aspect I like about the series,
Mhm.
when it comes to a lot of these characters, in the story, is how there's different things that Joe writes. We get to see it a lot in this book, depending on where they're from. So like Union type characters, because we haven't seen them in a while. But like Union type characters are always like working a job. They're very capitalistic. They're like just trying to make a living, or here, get up at my routine, do my job. Very Western centric, and I think that's really cool because the Northern guys are different. They're usually like, I just gotta survive. That's they're like, or they're having some kind of a fucking mental breakdown or something.
Yeah.
And it's not like Joe's focus or anything, but I do think he puts a little bit of work into cultural identity to a degree that they do feel different. A lot of the Cantic people they usually believe in God, and that does affect how they are raised and what they believe and everything, and has an effect on them. I think there's little things like that Joe does on purpose, and this is very prominent here because we get like all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even we talked about this before, where even the fact that this sort of like early modern civilization and then like a pre-medieval civilization exist alongside each other.
Yeah,
It's
which
very
is cool. It's cool.
It's very cool. It's a good idea.
Yeah. And we see like all of those. I guess like what Harrison's saying, all those aspects here, and going back to the practicals, they are in the fort where Savian was taken, and they're over here playing cards, a game of cards. It's Practical Weil, Practical Pauth, Practical Boulder, and I feel like there's at least one more, or no? Oh, Practical Fairing. And they're all kind of grumbling and bitching at each other. And apparently, Practical Weil has done this entire trip is fucking moaning, moaning about the food, the cold, his mask sores, his sweetheart, Pouf's snoring, Boulder's habits, Lawson's temper. These guys, it's 4 practicals, and
Is it like a typical work crew, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a construction work crew.
yeah. You shut up, you bitch too much. God damn.
Jeffrey, I know that you never really had work buddies since you've always been, work at your own pace kind of guy.
What the hell are you talking about?
Somebody who's had to be with this in the environment for a long time.
I used to work construction.
So rude. That's so rude.
Is Harrison all right today?
Jeffrey.
I
love you.
Yeah, sure you do.
It's good energy.
I'm about to put you over my knee and pow, pow, pow. You keep
holy shit! Whoa, that's a complete turn. I think maybe you do like me talking to you this way. Anyways, we can cut that all out. I'm just
Harrison's
wasting
about
time.
Harrison's about he's about to be Krieger in this fucking instance.
I'll just say that I like how I like this dynamic of them all talking with each other as coworkers. I think it's funny. They've obviously been with each other for a while, but like they also are still kind of superficial about it. Like none of them really know each other that well, but like they spend every day with each other. So they do on the they don't know each other's like backgrounds very well, but they know each other's personalities really well.
probably
I guess is the
not.
proper term.
Yeah, but I guess enough where like if Wiles talking about his ex-girlfriend or his sweetheart or whatever the fuck. Yeah. And then it's funny how I forget like some Pouth says to this guy Faring goes, "Well, your boots are pretty damn aggravating." And then Faring goes, "Boots is boots." What does that mean? Boots is boots. What the fuck is that?
It's gonna be probably the name of this chapter, though, isn't it? Boots.
Boots is boots. Yeah, probably. And Boulder, he goes, shut your yapping. Take a page out of his book, and he nods towards Savian. And Savian, I guess he's like, I don't want to say he's hung there, but he's manacled, right? His wrist, and he's like hanging by the ceiling a little bit, but not too much. But they were burning him. And apparently he hadn't done much more than grunt when they burned him. Didn't say a word, just watched, eyes narrowed, raw flesh glistening, which is wild. He didn't say a goddamn word. And Faring looks over at Weil. He goes, "You think you take a burning that well?" And Weil goes, he didn't even say anything. He goes, "I didn't even think about that." Weil is like he joined the Inquisition for all the wrong reasons. Because he didn't like to give a burning to somebody else. It doesn't matter what treasons, murders, or massacres the man was meant to have masterminded. He goes, he didn't want to do torture, but he thinks back to what his father told him. He goes, "It's a steady living, the Inquisition. Great paycheck. You don't have to worry about the recession."
God, yeah.
The 401k plan is excellent.
Joe managed to sneak all these modern references into the context. Yeah, job's a job, It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's fine. It doesn't matter how much it traumatizes you. It's okay.
He does say that apparently his father did say it's better to be asking the questions than to be giving the answers anyway. Which is like, yeah, but I mean,
some good logic. Good logic, Dad.
Anyway. So they start talking about like, wonder what's gonna happen, with Savian when, by the time they get back to Starkland, a lot of burnings, yada yada. Then there's a knock on the door. 3 quick knocks, and the practicals are like, Jesus Christ, Lorson with more questions. And once he had a question, he wasn't a man, to wait for an answer. So Pouth tells Faring, "Are you gonna get that?" Faring goes, "Why would I? You're closest. You're shortest. What's that got to fucking do with anything?" And so anyway, Boulder goes, "Would you just please shut up?" Came out here to get a break from his children, not to mind 3 more. And then another set of insistent knocking. And then Boulder's like, "All right, I'm coming." So he goes to the door. He unlocks the bolts and everything. And then there's a bit of a clatter, and Weil looks over. He goes, "What the fuck?" And he sees Boulder lurching against the wall, looking very quite put out, and someone barging past. You know what? That seemed a bit strong and rude, even if they'd taken a while to open the door. And Boulder obviously agreed because he opened his mouth to complain. Then looked surprised when he gurgled blood everywhere instead. That's when Weil noticed there was a knife handle sticking from his fat throat. And Faring tried to get up, but his boots got tangled with the table. And it wasn't Lorson who had been knocking. It was that big Northman, the one with all the scars. He took a stride into the room, teeth bared and crunch, left the knife buried in Faring's face to the crosspiece. And
you want to have knocking at your door.
Not exactly who you want to be inviting during Christmas dinner time. Mm-mm.
I like how they're in the only building in the whole camp, and somebody knocks at the door, and he just goes, "All right, I'll get it." Doesn't go like, "Who is it?"
I guess it goes to
show you, dude. That's I'll go to the door
because I imagine they expect it to be Lorson, because
why would Lorson be knocking?
Well, I will say, I think it's more of a point to show the difference of the the Inquisition in multiple like subtle ways. I don't know if all of this is intention. Some of it may just be normal, like, oh, that's convenient. Things have happened sometimes. But I do think that like Lorson hired these guys. He's obviously paying them.
These are
But other
practical.
time, a lot of all the practicals are paid. But the variation of their capabilities varies wildly. Like there's a huge gap between somebody like this and Vitari. There's a massive gap. So I think it all depends on like it also could be representing how like the Inquisition is more of a capitalistic structure rather than the king's institution because Glocta has grown it so much. So there may be a small element of that in there too.
I think that's a bit too much of reading into it when we have to remember that Beacon had buildings, still has buildings. The fort is just the biggest one, and these are practicals, and they caught their guy, and they've been doing some torture, and everybody else has been drinking heavily into the night. Even Lorson's probably, he obviously is not in the building, so that means they took a break from questioning and was like, all right, I'll be back later. I think that's pretty much it. And then they're gonna treat each other like any kind of crew will. We've seen look the dozen right in the Blade itself, the original the dozen, Black Dow, the Dogman,
Yeah.
Retrees. How they talk to each other, it's the same shit, exact same shit. And I think it's not so much as a lax. It's they're bad at their jobs in terms of security or anything. It's just they're not expecting this because they're in the midst of a bunch of mercenaries that they have
No,
contracted.
yeah, but that's my point as well. It's like these guys have been hired probably like in Middleland, shipped over, and now they're in this fucking middle of nowhere,
Right.
and they're just like, yeah, we're gonna talk to this guy, and then
We could take
go
it
to
back.
bed, just like every other night. For the
Yeah,
last...
that's the
Yeah.
job. That's the job, baby. We saw that firsthand from Glocta's point of view and well, now there's a giant, angry, 9-fingered Northman striding into their midst.
Yeah.
And apparently, Palth was quick enough to go to Savian and had a knife to his throat and was like, "Stop, or I kill him." And Wild's like, "Oh, good. He's always been a quick thinker. Good thing someone was." And Boulder is making a honkshu sound with the fucking knife in his throat. Fairing is fucking dead, obviously. And then Lamb, aka Logan, aka the Bloody Nine, aka the Big Northman, lowers his blade slightly, and then Puff tells Wild to get help, that he'll see to this. And so Wild, he circles the Northman. I'm always imagine him like sidling against the wall, like a, like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Just like
Yeah, crab walking along the wall.
crab walking. Thank you. And then he dives out the open door and he's running. He's like, help, help. And everyone's so drunk because they're celebrating all the money they had, right? Help the Northman, the prisoner. Somebody's pointing at him and laughing. And then somebody comes up to him and goes, what are you jabbering about? And it's General Casca, dewy eyes gleaming with the firelight. And then Wild goes, that Northman. He grabs him. He goes, Lamb, he killed Boulder and Faring in there. And he points at the fort. And give him his due, Casca needed no convincing. Enemies in the camp. Surround the fort. You cover the door. Make sure no one leaves. Dimpick, get men around the back. You put that woman down. Arm yourself, you wretches. And everybody, like, some people snap to obey, but a lot of them are just like, because they're so drunk.
Yeah.
And Lorson, he comes out. He's in his nightshirt because he's in his, he was sweeping. He goes, what the hell happened? And Casca tells him, well, it seems Lamb attempted a rescue of your prisoner. And then Swarbrick is like, rescue?
Finally, something exciting to write about.
Yeah, and Lorson's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's looking at Wild now, and he goes, Palf took the prisoner, he's seeing to it, and then a figure lurched from the fort's open door, took a few lazy steps, pished on his face, blood turning the snow around him pink, and he collapsed, and that's Palf. So Casca goes, okay. And so a woman shrieked. Now it's like, all right, get more bows up here. I want a pincushion of anything that shows itself. Clear the civilians away. And Lorson's like, is Conthus still alive? He goes, I think so. he was when I and Lorson goes, cravenly fled. Pull your mask up, damn it, you're disgraced. So then Casca goes, can you hear me, Master Lamb? as Friendly's helping him into his breastplate. And then you just looking at the fort, it's just a black doorway, and you hear Lamb's voice goes, "I," and it's just quiet, right? And he goes, "I am so pleased you have graced us with your presence again. I wish you had sent word of your coming. We could have prepared a more suitable reception." And Lamb goes, "Thought I'd surprised you." Yeah, we appreciate the gesture. But I should say I have some 150 fighting men out here. Look, several of them are very drunk.
Oh, fuck. So they're all just like,
I love the idea that like he says that he's like looking around nervously and they're all like stumbling over each other like
just imagine some guy trying to load his crossbow and he can't get the bolt in. Just like,
or he's doing this. You can't even- he's like 20 lambs. And then he goes, I don't really see any happy endings for you. He goes, I've never been much for happy endings. And Wild didn't know how a man could sound so steady and calm under these circumstances. And he goes, Costco goes, look, maybe we can engineer one between us. You know, why don't you two put your weapons down and come out? We can all discuss this like civilized men. He's doing this while gesturing to some of his men to go around the floor, take up positions, yada, yada. And Lamb goes, never been much for civilization either. Reckon you'll have to come to me. Casca goes, bloody Northman. Dimbick, are any of your men not drunk? You wanted them as drunk as possible, you said.
He's like,
Damn
it.
He goes, I need a few. I need them sober. He goes, maybe a few who are on guard, perhaps. I guess of the wagon. He goes, Casca goes, send them in. And Lorson jumps in. He goes, we want Conthus alive. And Dimpick goes, we will do our best, but there are no promises. We'll make that northern bastard regret coming here. And Casca's saying this while continuing to drink. I don't know how he found another bottle.
Costco could just spawn bottles. That's his magic power. He can just produce alcohol at this point.
So now we switch perspectives over to Savian, who says you shouldn't have come back to Lamb. And Lamb goes, well, it has. I'm regretting it already. It hasn't gone quite the way I hoped. Savian's like, yeah, you can say that about most things in life. Lamb being the person he is, Logan. In my life, no doubt, because my life just, I just find myself in all these hijinks.
Leaf on the water, right?
Yeah, no wonder they get along.
And I'm reading this because like I like the Lamb says you can never have too many knives, which is like a nice little callback. And Savian goes, it's a rule to live by, and Lamb says, or die by. And
that's the first time that anybody's agreed with him about that as well. Every other time he says no, you can never have new right. Most people are like, I don't know, you know.
Yeah, you're right. And Lamb asks him if he wants a shirt, and Savian's like, you know what? What's the point in getting them if you don't show them off? I've been covering up too long anyway.
Hell yeah.
And Lamb goes, yeah, man's got to be what he is, I reckon. And Savian, yeah, wish we'd met 30 years ago. And then Lamb goes, no, you don't. I was a mad fucker then. And Savian goes, and now? And Lamb goes, well, I thought I'd learned something, but here I am handing out knives.
I think it's so funny, this conversation. Like, he's like, Savian's like in love with him. He's like, man, what a man you are. What a fighter. What a loyal brother. And then Lamb's like, you really don't know me, do you?
Yeah. And they talk about like the paths that they picked in life, and you think it's just for tomorrow, and the next thing you know, 30 years later, you're like, how the fuck did I get here? And then Savian goes, always thought I'd die fighting for the cause. And Lamb goes, you will. The cause is saving my fat old ass. And Savian, yeah, it's a noble calling. And reckon I'll get upstairs. We ain't got all night. Lamb says that. And then Savian asks him, he goes, will you be all right down here? And Lamb goes, it might be best if you just stay up there. That mad fucker from 30 years ago, sometimes he comes visiting. And Savian goes, then I'll leave you two to the two of you to it. And he says, you shouldn't have come back, but I'm glad you did. And he holds out his hand. Lamb shakes it and he goes, wouldn't have missed it.
They actually don't
And
shake hands. They actually do what they do in Predator. You know, the meme.
they squeeze.
Yes, the squeeze.
Well, either way, they look each other in the eye. Seeing in that moment they had as good an understanding between them as if they had met 30 years ago. And then the time for friendship is over, and now it's time to go. And he goes up the stairs, and so he leaves Lamb downstairs to handle business, hopefully for the best. So Lamb, Savian goes upstairs. He has two crossbows, flat bows, and as well as a regular bow. And there are 4 windows upstairs, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. And so he puts the crossbows by 2 of them in the front, and he looks around outside, and he sees that there's a fair bit of chaos. There is a great bonfire, so that provides some light. So he sees that there is some light, like I said before. But what he does is he takes one of the lamps. They still have oil lanterns, right? And he tosses it from the window, and it hits the roof of one of the shacks, and that house has like straw and thatch on it, and that lit it up. And he sees that men are hurrying with axes at the ready to go to the front of the door. So he yells out that they're coming for the door. He says 5, 6. Actually, there's 6 people. And then so he takes one of the flat bows, shoots one of them. He goes, oh, actually, it's 5 now. And then he has to, and then he grabs the bow and he shoots somebody else. And then somebody comes in, and now he has to leave that for Lamb, whoever's coming towards the door. Right, so then he scurries to the back wall, and because he has his hunting bow now, and because he heard voices over there by the back wall, right? So he goes and he peeks down, and he sees that there are men crouched against there, and one of them is trying to climb, and then they look up, that one guy, and Savian shoots him right through the mouth.
Damn.
And they're like, oh shit, and then they start scurrying, and he starts shooting arrows at them as they run away, and he kills them. I think he maybe one gets away, but he kills the rest of them because they start scurrying, right?
Yeah.
And at that moment, he was hit with a coughing fit, and he hears a roar downstairs and crashing and ripping and fighting. He's like, Jesus Christ. And so he stumbles to the front window, knocks another arrow, sees 2 more rushing for the door. He shoots one of them, and the other one's like, fuck that. He dives. And then arrows are hitting the building as Savian ducks. And then the back window again is cracking now, and one of them swung open. He sees a hand on the windowsill, and so he snatches up a mace because there was a mace laying there as well, and he swings it, timing it just right. As soon as a helmeted head showed itself in the window, he cracked it, and that man went tumbling back into the night. But then the other window, somebody else climbed in there, and so Savian's lunging at him, and they're fighting, they're wrestling, and Savian feels like a burning pain in his gut, but he's able to basically grab his own knife and fall on top of him and stab and stab and stab until the guy stopped moving.
He jabs.
And then
that's the terminology we use here at the Circle of the World podcast, remember?
jab. And then he hears a bubbling scream downstairs and someone squealing, no. And he hears Lamb going, yes, you fucker. And then a long silence after a couple of heavy thuds.
Jesus Christ.
And then Lamb gave a kind of groan and another crash like he was kicking something over. And Savian goes, are you all right? And then Lamb goes, still breathing. You? And Savian goes, just picked up a scratch. And he peeled away his palm from his stomach, and there's a lot of blood. He got stabbed, obviously, in the stomach. And he wishes he could talk to Corlin one last time. Tell her all those things you think but never say because they're hard to say, and there'll be time later. How proud he was of what she'd become, how proud her mother would have been to carry on the fight. Or maybe give up the fight because you only get one life, and do you really want to look back on it and just see blood on your hands? But it was too late to tell her anything, so he picked his path. So he's crawling.
He says that, right? And I think, it's like Savian's like, we don't, That's like his sweet moment in his mind.
Yeah.
And we all know that he's not her father. So that just means that he's somebody who knew her, like her, at least her mom, and obviously was with her since she was a girl, though. And I think that's sweet in its own little way. It's really sad.
Very similar situation to Shia and Lamb, so
Yes.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I think
that's
so.
a good parallel for sure. For sure. Savian crawls towards the front because he doesn't really have a lot of strength left, but he does. He stands up beside the window. He's trying to load another flatbow, but he doesn't have his hands don't have the strength, right?
Yeah.
And then he looks out. He sees like that shack that was on fire is like ablaze now. And so what he does, he yells out. He's like, "Is that the best you could do?" And then Casca he goes, "Sadly for you, no." And then Savian looks, and something sparked and fizzled in the darkness, and there was a flash like daylight. And
Just
then
want
we
to say,
switch.
just before you move on, Jeff, sorry, I like the fact that we get all of this from Savian's perspective. So all of like the bloody nine antics that we know and love, it kind of just we don't get to see a lot of it. So like your imagination
You
has
just
to
hear
make
it.
up for it.
Yeah.
So you just hear these things happening. You're like, oh yeah, something terrible is happening downstairs.
I do like
something
too
awful.
something unique as well is that normally people be like, "Hey, you doing okay? What's going on down there?" You wouldn't hear anything because he's like, "I'm the bloody nine," but he does respond after he's like, "Yes, I'm gonna kill you." He does go, "Yeah, homie, I'm good."
Because he's just about to get to that point, right?
Yes, great.
And then we switch perspectives over to Joubert, and Joubert says it was a noise like the voice of God, as the scriptures say, which leveled the city of the presumptuous Namai with but a whisper.
That's an excellent, like one of the best pieces of like Cantic background that we get. It's
Yeah.
just this little line from Joubert.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like lore, right? Like this is obviously a mythological
It-
thing that's happened, like just like like the city of Troy or something like that. That's
or
how
Sodom and Gomorrah kind of
Sodom and
thing.
Gomorrah kind
Yeah.
of deal. Yeah, it's cool.
It is. And well, I mean, that's a good reference point because like he said, there had been much violence that had been done to the building, finger size, fist size, and head size holes through the walls of the bottom floor, and half of the top floor had departed the world, smoldering planks that were splintered and everything. And there was a creaking, and half the roof fell in, broken shingles clattering to the ground below. And he goes like, this was like the lightning harnessed, and he's the pipe of brass. So that fortified wagon had a big ass cannon on it. And we don't know, and I don't think it's a one big cannon ball though. I think this is like, it seemed like it was what's that word, not like buckshot, but like just shot, right, where it is like
Load it with with shrapnel.
shrapnel.
Just load
Thank
it
you.
with whatever.
A shitload of shrapnel. And the pipe had nearly leaped from its carriage and sat skewed, smoke still issuing from the blackened mouth. And he goes, such a power should belong only to God. And Casca goes, and yet he lends it to us to do his work. This fucking guy always just somehow manages to twist people's like their own leanings to his needs or whatever. He goes, take some men in there and find those two old bastards. And Lawson goes, I want Contis alive. And Casca goes, Casca whispers, if possible, but dead is just as good. And Joubert's like, mm-hmm. And he goes, apparently, look at this from Joubert's perspective. He goes, he had come to a conclusion long years before that God sometimes spoke through the person of Nicomo Casca, an unlikely prophet, a treacherous, lawless, pink drunkard who had never uttered a word of prayer in all his long life. But from the first moment Joubert had seen him in battle and known he had known no fear, he had sensed in him some splinter of the divine. Surely he walked in God's shadow. And I guess
love that
I
actually.
fucking love that. I absolutely love it. I think it's so brilliant that we know that Costco is this charismatic fucker that can get most people onto his side, and the fact that this fucking Joubert is clearly schizophrenic or something.
But also like a hardliner.
Like, yes, this man knows.
but for Joubert, there's a reference, right? Because just as the prophet Kalul had walked naked through a rain of arrows with only
but you can do that. You can do that with any.
I
Kind
hear
of
you. I hear you. But Joubert is obviously, yes, he is schizo. He's a psycho. But to him, like Costco's like, oh my god, he's a shitty person, but he knows no fear. Remember, he keeps talking about how to walk God's path, you need to know no fear, right?
I was just saying that, like, I think you're right, Jeffrey. I think it's a good point to point out the fact that, like, how Casca influences people and how people see him. We've heard this kind of thing before. And this is just like a different version of that. And I think it's cool how, like, people, like you said, George, people will be able to, like, it could work with any scripture. It could work with any ideology. People just like brave men, and you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
charismatic, brave people in general. And Casca is one of those, and especially in a world like this where it's very uncommon. Even in our world, it's uncommon, really. Even though he's got Nakoma Casca has his issues, he's still like that guy. He's the popular guy. People just like him. And I think it's cool how it shows like this complete different ideology and how it fits into it, even though it's a fucked one.
Yeah. It is. It is.
Perfect.
And Joubert, so he picks out like 6 men, and he goes, "You 3, on my signal, go in by the door, and you other 3 come with me, right?" And one of them happens to be one of those mercenaries happens to be a Northman, and he shakes his head, and he goes, and he's like, "It's him." Joubert's like, "Him," and then the Northman he goes, the. He doesn't say it, but he looks down at his hand, and he folds the middle finger on his left hand. And then Joubert's like, "Stay then, you fool."
That's so cool. I love it. So epic. So
I know. And then so he has his men go to by the door, and he has he and the other men go in behind, right? And he climbs up and he peeks in, and he just debris all over the place, right in the top floor.
Mhm.
And so he eases forward. He looks at the stairwell, and it's all black with shadow. He heard a sound from there, like a regular thump, thump, thump. It's like interesting. And he goes to the front window, and he tells his 3 men that are out there by the door to kick in, and they go in. And then I believe he tells his other 2 men that are behind him to go in as well, down the stairwell, and he's still by the front door. And he looks down in the debris, and he feels something soft. He steps on on a hand, and he looks like, oh, it's Contis, and he's like, "Contis is here," and Lorsen's like, "Alive?" And then he goes, "Dead," and then we hear Lorsen, "Damn it!"
I love he's just in the background, just like he doesn't do anything. He's just like, "Damn it, no!"
And Joubert had gathered up the body of Contis and rolled it over the wall, and he goes, "Now there's only the Northman, and however fearsome he might be, God had a sentence already in mind." And in the middle of his thought, a scream split the night, crashing below, roars and groans, and a metal scraping, and then a strange hacking laugh, another scream. And Joubert walked to the stairs, and he hears a wailing below, now as horrible as the sinful dead consigned to hell, blubbering off into silence. The point of Joubert's sword showed the way, fearless, righteous. He hesitated. He goes, "Oh, well, wait a minute. To feel fear was to be without faith. It is not given to man to understand God's design, only to accept his place in it." So he clenches his jaw tight, and he walks down the stairs. Black as hell below, light shining in rays of flickering red, orange, yellow through the holes of the front wall, casting strange shadows. Black as hell, and like hell, it reeked of death. So strong the stench, it seemed a solid thing. He half held his breath as he descended, eyes adjusting to the darkness by degrees. What revelation! The leather curtains that had divided up the space hung torn, showered and spotted with black, stirred a little as if by wind. His boot caught something, and he looked down, and a severed arm, and he follows the glistening trail of blood to a black, slick, flesh-humped and mounded and inhumanly abused, hacked apart and tangled up together in unholy configurations, innards dragged out and rearranged and unwound in glistening coils. In the midst stood a table, and upon the table a pile of heads. As the light shifted away, and they all looked at Joubert with expressions awfully vacant, madly leering, oddly questioning, angrily accusatory. He just says, "God." Joubert had done butchery in the name of the Almighty, but he had not seen anything like this. This was not written in any scripture except maybe in the forbidden 7th of the 7 books sealed within the tabernacle of the great temple in Shapha.
Now,
which,
Han,
which were
Right.
recorded those things that Glustrad brought from hell. Go ahead.
I was saying that's cool that that's mentioned because we know Bias has a copy of that as well. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And then he says again, God, and he hears jagged laughter from the shadows, and he's like, what the fuck? He's slashing at like the leather curtains and everything. He's not catching anything, and the laughter's all around him, and he's like panicking. He's like, God? And then he can't even speak, and he feels like his that fear coming up to his guts, and his knees are shaking. And he's thinking about he's like almost like harkening back to being a child, and he's backing away towards the steps, and he yells again. He goes, not yells, he says again, God. And then out of nowhere, suddenly there were arms around him. Gone, but I am here. Oh my God. And now we switch perspectives over to Inquisitor Lawson, and he's like, damn it again. His long-cherished dream of presenting the infamous contest to the open council, chained and humbled, might as well has just gone up in smoke. Because 13 years minding a penal colony in England for this. All the writing, all the sacrifice, all the indignity. In spite of his best efforts, the entire expedition had devolved into a farce, and he had no doubt upon which undeserving head would be heaped the blame. So, I wanted him alive! And Costco's like, so did I. Fate is not always kind to us. And he goes, to make matters worse, Lorson had lost half his practicals in one night, and that was the better half. And he looked over at Weil. He goes, how was it possible for a practical to look so unthreatening? The man positively radiated doubt. And Lorson had entertained doubts enough over the years, but he did what was one supposed to do and kept them crushed into a tight little packet deep inside where they could not leak out.
Just stuff it down. Just stuff it down with some brown.
Stuff it down. And then the door of the fort slowly creaked open, and Dimbik's archers, they kind of like, oh, all right, are we getting ready? And then Casca goes, Joubert, did you get him? Answer me, damn it. And then something flew out, bounced across the floor on the snow near the fire. And what is that? And Casca looks at it and goes, Joubert's head. And Brachio goes, fate is not always kind. He's just repeating what Casca said. And then another head came flying out the doorway. And then a third. And then a fourth. And now more heads just are flying out this fucking doorway. And then the last one bounced high and rolled all around the fire next to Casca. Now, Lorson was not a man to be put off by a little gore, but even he had to admit to being a little unnerved by this display of mute brutality. And then Casca, not as squeamish, he just steps forward and he goes, how many have those two old men, those two old bastards killed between them? And Brachio says, about 20 now, maybe? And then Casca's like, we'll fucking run out at this rate. And then he looks at Swarbrick, who's frantically writing, and he's like, what are you writing about? And then Swarbrick goes, well, this is rather dramatic. You know, he came to the rescue of his friend against impossible odds. And Casca's mad. He goes, and he's gotten himself killed. This is not a man who takes on impossible odds, generally considered an incorrigible idiot rather than a hero. And Brachio goes, the line between has always been blurry. And Swarbrick is like, well, I came for a tale to stir the blood. And Casca goes, oh, then I've been unable to oblige you. Is that it? Even my own biographer is deserting me. No doubt I'll end up the villain in the book I commissioned while yonder decapitating madman is celebrated to the rafters.
Yonder decapitating madman. It's an incredible line. This is a Western. This is a Western. And Joe did have to sneak the word yonder in here.
He had to. I mean, in my head, they don't even speak with British accents. It's all Western, baby. And he's like, Temple, what do you think of this? Temple, where did that bloody lawyer get to? Brachio, what do you think about this? And then Brachio's like, well, I think the time has come to put an end to the ballad of the nine-fingered Northmen. He's like, finally, some sense. He's like, bring up the other tube. I want that excuse for a fort level to a stump. So I guess there's more than one cannon on the wagon. Someone bring me another bottle. Casca slaps Swarbrick's notebook from his hands. He's like, I'm sick of being taken fucking lightly. A little respect, is that too much to ask? And he slaps Swarbrick again. It's like this time his face. And then Lawson's like, wait a minute, guys. Wait. Shh. What's that noise? And he was like a thumping and a rumbling, rapidly growing louder and louder. And he's like, what the fuck's going on? And then Dimpick is like, uh-oh. And they see one horse thundering through the night, eyes wild. And then moments later, dozens more towards the camp, surging, a boiling mass of animals. And so now it's a stampede, and men are like, oh, fuck. And then, they're all like rolling, diving out of the way. Lawson trips, and he trips and falls, and he looks, and he hears a whooping, and he sees a glimpse of Dab Sweet at the rear of the herd, grinning wildly, lifting his hat in salute as he skirted the camp. And the horses were among the buildings, and it was just all hell kicking loose, right? And Lawson had kind of pushed himself against the nearest hovel, the nearest shack, and something knocked him on his head, almost sent him down, but he clung on. And then, like, just it's a stampede, so it's chaos at this point. And then there's silence, and Lawson he gets away from the shack, and he looks, and he goes, Jesus Christ, they stampeded the horses. And Casca goes, do you fucking think so? Who also like had ducked into a near shack. And the camp was devastated. Several attempts ceased to be. Both human and materials trampled into the snow. The ruined fort continued to smolder, but two of the shacks were aflame. Bodies were humped all between the buildings. Trampled men and women in various states of dress. This is chaos. And Casca's like, Dad fucking sweet. And Swarbrick is like, well, I did say he had quite the reputation. And the friendly goes, perhaps we should have paid him his share. And Casca goes, well, you could take it to him now if you please. It's in the wagon. And he trails off because he looks towards the wagon. And the wagon that had been Superior's gift. The wagon where the cannons were carried, the wagons in which the dragon people's vast treasure had been safely stowed, the wagon was gone.
Fucking love it. This is such good comeuppance for Costco because he's been such a smug cunt up until this point that you just love to see this guy just get torn down again.
Yep.
Like, yeah, you deserve this, you piece of shit.
Yep. And he goes, where is it? And they could see that the tracks of the wagon went down the Imperial Road, and I guess during the stampede, it got taken. And he goes, Brachio, find some horses and go after them. And Brachio, he's like, you wanted all the horses corralled together. They're stampeded. Some must have broken from the herd. Find a half dozen and get after them now. Where the hell is Temple? And Casca is yelling. He's like, everyone who can get ready to move. And Dimpick looks at Lawson. He goes, on foot all the way to Crease. He goes, we'll gather mounts on the way. And what about the injured? Those who can walk are welcome. And any who cannot mean greater shares to the rest of us. Now get them moving, you damned idiot. And Dimpick's like, okay. And friendly, he looks at the fort. He goes, what about the Northmen? And Casca's like, fuck the Northmen. They soaked the building with oil and burned it. They stolen our gold. They stolen my dreams. Do you understand? I will not be disappointed again. And Lawson, he doesn't like say anything, but he just looks at the body of Contis, and he's just like, what a waste. And he looks at Casca. He says this to Casca's back. He says, there will be a price for this, Casca. There will be a price. And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate it?
I want to say again, like, just before we end that, I love how Lawson, like, right at the end there, was like, well, it's just another thing to go deep down in the packet with all the rest of my feelings, you know?
All my hopes
Maybe
and dreams.
Costco could have learned something from Lawson, eh? Maybe so much damage
Don't be
would not have been
ridiculous.
done. I love this chapter is absolutely incredible, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to give it a 9 straight away.
Yeah, I think a 9 as well.
Deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely deserves it. I love the fact that we get to see the Bloody Nine in action one last time, and not necessarily the actual action, but
like
this is the most
hearing
intense it's
it,
ever been.
right?
Yeah, full on guts everywhere and heads on tables, and
Yeah.
Joubert is just like, what the fuck?
I know.
This guy that we know is an absolute badass and will do anything. He's like, what the fuck? This is a bit strong for me.
A bit strong. A bit strong in it. Oh, that's hilarious.
What about you guys?
I'm giving it a 9. I agree. I mean, this had high action. A rescue trying to rescue his friend. We have the comeuppance of the stampede. We have the death of Savian, aka Contis. It's just like, oh fuck. So it has like everything. It's like it just flows so well. And then the tension when Joubert goes down those steps. Oh lordy almighty. First time I ever read that, I was like, Jesus Christ.
It's scary. It's a scary part.
It's scary. Harrison, what do you give it?
I would give it an 8 out of 9.
Yeah.
I think it's done really, really well. And Logan is so this is like his limelight. He's like, finally, my time.
My time to shine.
The good part is, I think that the cathartic part is that like you don't have to feel bad for these guys. Like most of the time, Logan goes and kills people, and you're like, you didn't have to do that, bro. What are you doing? And this time, you're like, yeah,
these guys are all cunts.
get them, kill them all. I don't give a fuck. This is so cool. And I like too, like, there's like, we have these times where we're like, oh yeah, Logan's a badass, and everything like that. And this is another one of those times. But I love the fact that like he is like a one-man army. He could totally, like, with the right circumstances, if they didn't have that cannon and they kept trying to get him, he would kill all of them.
Somehow, some way.
He would have. I mean, that's so crazy. Also, Logan worked really fast. He obviously had a plan. He planned on chopping those heads off, or he was just living in the moment because
living in the moment. That's it. He's a free bird, baby.
Yes, and I also like too how, because he wasn't going like full like rage mode, like using all his energy up, he was being more smart about it. He was stealth killing them and then chopping them up and haunting more in. It makes sense why he could have done this for a long time. So and super creative.
Yeah, and they weren't bum rushing all at once, right? They would send in 4 people, whatever. I mean, it's still a lot of people, but it's Logan,
Mistake. I love how you use fear. It's so cool.
Yeah. Really is. It's a great.
Bear in mind, he's got his maker-made sword back as well. So
yeah, that's right, because he took it from Werdener. That's right. So that bad boy is gonna do him right. But yeah, so we'll move on to our final segment, which is our character spot, boys. Who else can we spotlight but everybody that died?
Savian.
Truly, it's Savian. Truly, Joubert's a dick. The other guys, whatever. Practical Pouth. Fairing, and what was the other one? Boulder. We hardly knew ye, but I mean, Savian. Wow, what a man!
Yeah,
what a man!
Yeah, he like you said. I said he's kind of like the parallel to Logan. He's just less extreme, obviously. He's like, you know what he's like?
Yeah. I mean, a loner. Yeah.
You know what Savian is like to me? Savian is like, you know how Logan is a first law character who's very complex, and he's one of Joe's best. Savian is like a normal badass veteran type character,
right?
So he's like less complex and less cool and has less shit going on. But ironically, at the same time, like the character himself is also that same way. Like it's not just that he's written that way. Yes, he is to a degree, but it's all written. But what I mean is like, Savian is obviously more simplistic in his own mind and in the writing. So I the
same way. I agree with you, Harrison, but I feel like in the same way, Savian is essentially like Logan if he had actually had a cause that he really believed in,
and was
less effective.
and
was
much less effective.
But yeah, Savian is like the he's Stergland's Bloody Nine, the Great Value Bloody Nine.
The Great Value.
We can see it. Like everybody thinks that he's Conthus, even though
Yeah.
We know. Because he's like the big, he's covered in tattoos and he's got all the. But I love the fact that he's never like completely overstated. Like when he gets discovered, I love the fact that he turns around and goes, "Would you believe me if I said I wasn't Gunthus?"
He's pretty funny. He's got a good sense of humor. He's obviously like not in the greatest shape in terms of like his health, not his physicality. But
I think that he probably has TB.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's what he's playing. He I like how he is I know I said he's kind of like simplistic. I don't mean that in a negative way. I think he's more of a simple man, like and I don't think that's bad. I like that you can also there's so much history that is unsaid between him and Corlin, which is like but between this and what we'll see here in a bit I think is really well done for how little like we actually see them interact, even though they're supposed to be close.
Great character. We'll miss you, Savian.
We shall miss D. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot.
Join us next week as we cover Nowhere Fast and Times Change.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media or send us an email at circleoftheworldpodcast@gmail.com.
If you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from. And please make sure to rate and review us. Thank you all again for listening.
Okay. Gone. But I am here.